guys know who Bo Nickel is, let's start with that. Bo Nickel is amongst the great wrestlers ever, certainly amongst the great collegiate wrestlers ever, would be a very accurate statement. Over the course of winning 3 NCAA championships, he also picked up a University World gold medal. I mean, this is truly one of the greats ever. Young guy, 24 by now, 24 years old, and Bo Nickel gets brought into the American Top Team, and he's been training with Jorge Masvidal. Hold that thought. GIlbert Burns came out, and he said, I believe Usman versus Masvidal will be super boring. Not just boring, super boring. And so I'm just looking at that statement going, okay, fair guess. I mean, if anybody's earned their right within that division to make a guess, I would say GIlbert Burns has earned the right to that opinion. But what throughout history would lead us to that? Has Usman been in boring fights, just by example? Has Masvidal ever been in a boring fight, just by example? If you put those two together, does that guarantee you something special? It's probably a pretty good guess. Yeah, it is probably a pretty good guess. The only time that I really ever see a boring fight in the fans' minds, I don't know if I would agree. I appreciate some of the groundwork, the George St. Pierre's that would get very busy once they got on top, the Khabib Nurmagomedovs that have changed the top game immensely with some of the leg entanglements, some of the transitions that they're doing, looking to pass while pounding, going back to better positions and looking for submissions all the while. I personally don't see that as boring. But I think the larger narrative is if you have a ground fight and one guy's on top of the other, and you got to see that for 25 minutes, you have a boring fight. But I don't know that I've seen Usman be lazy on top, and that's kind of what you're talking about. You're talking about somebody holding someone down. And we got to go back a meaningful amount of time before that's even happened. I mean, the rules have grown over time, where if you're not active and you're not advancing or doing damage, the referee will bring you to your feet. So it's a little bit of a tough concept, but let's just look at it from that perspective because it ties back into Bo Nickel. And I will tell you, if you work with very high-level wrestlers, even for a short period of time, I mean 2 or 3 months, but with the right guys, you will grow immensely. So if we're buying into some concept that Usman just throws George down and keeps him there and rinse and repeat for 5 rounds, I'm very, very bearish on that idea happening. I think that's going to be tough. Usman can certainly get George down. It will take a lot of energy. When Usman gets somebody down, though, Usman's very aggressive and very active, and you're going to have to be with somebody like Masvidal. I'll just use another example that you guys could resonate with, maybe a little easier, but was Matt Brown. Matt Brown's whole career changed. He went on like a 7-fight win streak. But one of the things that he had changed with his training is he was going into the Ohio State wrestling room, and he was just wrestling with those guys. It changed his conditioning. The biggest thing you'll learn from wrestling as it transitions to MMA is how to scramble for one, but to be able to scramble, you must have a very specific kind of conditioning that you cannot get anywhere else. You can't get it from a treadmill, a heavy bag, a jump rope, sparring MMA. You have to be doing actual wrestling when you're doing it. And I only bring that up because making believe you could just throw Masvidal down and beat him up is a pretty tough concept to start with, particularly to do that for 25 minutes. It's a pretty tough concept. But Usman is a pretty rare athlete where maybe he could. But that would have to be a Masvidal from many, many years ago. Masvidal, as of late, even the best wrestlers have a hard time getting on top of him even once. Even one time on top of him becomes hard, and that's before you insert Bo Nickel into the conversation. When you insert some of these great wrestlers that know how to scramble and can give you a different strength and a different power and a different look, you can elevate in a short period of time, and Usman most certainly has had that amount of time.